So following on from my previous video where we did rust around VW bugs, I thought we'd do something similar for the VW T25 or Vanagon. So this is just my personal experience of rust in these vans. So where to look for generally when you're looking at buying a new one, I guess. And I'll try and show you in the areas as best I can what to look for. So the T25 or Vanagon is a bit of a tank, and I've always found over the years that the main structural parts of the van are pretty solid. I've never actually had a van fail for any structural issues with those parts of the van. Now I'm not suggesting you shouldn't have a little scooter underneath it if you're looking to buy something, and check those areas out just to make sure they are solid. But most of the issues we're covering today are vaguely bodywork and bits of bodywork which are close to structural parts, I guess. So yeah, let's have a little look around and see what we can find. Because of the design of these vans, where they draw air in through the back here, through the vent, and down into the engine bay, these side trays are pretty prone to getting full of water over time and rotting out. I've not seen many that haven't actually rotted in this area. This one here has got a pretty obvious hole to start with in this corner, just behind the box. I'm pretty sure there'll be more. At the other side, we have a hole in pretty much the same place actually. So it's all pretty nasty around there. They tend to go along the edge seams and in the back corner, and it's, with the engine in from the inside and the lights in, it's a pretty tricky fix, and the vast majority I've seen are always fixed from the outside because it's a lot more accessible, but you do need to look underneath as well to see if there's any panels being put in there. With it being relatively flat panels, it's not a kind of crazy hard thing to fix in a reasonably nice way, because it's easy to make patch panels that will go in and pretty seamlessly, but it's something you definitely need to check. Wings, front and back, they're all bad. They get water collecting on the inside edge and gunk and mud which holds the water and retains it, and they all tend to rot out. The loads have holes on the inside edges. This one's all made of filler, so yeah, they're pretty bad. You can get replacement panels to have it done relatively nicely, and I guess it's relatively accessible, so it's not crazy hard to do, but you want to avoid it if you can. Just check carefully, because say it's common to have filler in these areas, especially in this bottom section as well. So I think the most important places to check on your 25 before buying are basically along the entire side, along the side channel. Now the channel's quite a chunky beast. It does rot out eventually, but it's pretty solid. But you tend to find the bodywork around it are in kind of key areas for suspension, and they're quite tricky to fix. So the first thing you need to do is get down the side and look on your inner wing here. So at the front where the suspension meets, I found when I was looking at vans, it was very common to find vans where they were rotted out in there. Now sometimes it just looks a bit wet and sludgy and messy, and it's not always obvious there's a hole there, so you need to have a little poke. And when we were looking for a van, I think just about every single van had some serious rot there, and if any MOT man spotted it, with it being so close to the suspension, the chances are it would have failed the MOT as well. So you can probably see in here, this one's had a patch put in here, so this entire section's been replaced. Going underneath, you can see that this one's had a patch put in the corner there, and the patch from the side we saw earlier is underneath there, look. And again at the other side, patch at the back there in the same place, look, and it's been patched underneath the suspension mount area. While you're under the back wing, it's worth checking to see if there's any plates for mounting seat belts that have been put in place. Now this is a bit of a new one on me. I've not seen a van as bad as this in this area before, but the front one is a newer one for the seat belts I'm using. I'm actually using that for my seat belts, and the back one, the big one, is from many years ago. I'm assuming it's from a previous setup. However, at the other side of the van there is a big old patch which has been welded up by a previous owner. Now obviously having those plates through the metal can promote rust quite badly, and on the inside this looks a real mess like this. So unfortunately this is the inside of the new van, so I've still got this to fix and make nice. So if you've got plates for your seatbelts and stuff going through, if the sake of a minute, lift the carpets in the back and just make sure it's solid. Not only to find if you've got something to fix, but more for safety, because depending on the size of your plate, that's a fair size hole that's there, and I suspect if you're in a serious car incident with the seatbelt attached, it could probably pull through that hole. If your van has side windows, especially this type sliding style, which don't seem to seal as well, then it's definitely worth checking down the back of the B-pillar and along the channel here. Now the channel and the B-pillar on the new van was rotted out. It's pretty bad, and ended up having to do quite a bit of welding to fix that area. It's really tricky if you've got units in here and sinks and stuff, to actually get to the back of there and have a good look. But if there's anything on the outside or anything around the B-pillar from the outside, it's definitely worth trying to get back there and check it out, because, say, it can potentially be pretty bad. This one, incidentally, which doesn't have a side window, is pretty solid. Looking at the side of your van, have a good look at this panel, make sure it's nice and smooth and it's not like that. So you can see it's nice and round and it goes all knobbly bobbly. Now that can be just because something's bumped into the side of it and it's been filled up or patched up at some point. Or it could be because it's rotted out. Now actually, when I saw this on the van, I actually assumed it was covering an old vent for the fridges and stuff, but it's not. It's actually a big hole in the bodywork which someone's put an aluminium plate over. So this entire section I actually got to replace at some point in the future, because it's not great. To do that is relatively straightforward. It's just, they say, you can cut the panel out on the hole, but you have to remember that the kitchen units generally are on the other side, so you may have to remove those to do a decent job depending on how things are on the inside. So yeah, you don't want it. You want it to be in decent condition if possible. Just look out for unevenness. And if you have a plate like that, yeah, it's probably a hole. It's not a vent. Moving forwards to the back of the B-pillar behind the front wheel. Again, where the channel is on the wing here at the bottom. Full of filler. Doesn't look like it's gone all the way through actually. But when that's rotted out there, that's a horrible fix, because obviously it's quite obvious from the outside what you're looking at. And to fix it nice and neatly and then get it all nice and smooth again with being a curved panel in the corners, an annoyingly fiddly one. And if we move inside the inner wing, on the back there where the end of the channel effectively would meet, again it's rotted out. That's had a panel put in there, look. Moving forward from there, up the wheel to the wing, the top of the wing. Look at that mess in there. That's a right old mess, isn't it? Now, I don't know why they seem to rot out there. It's a bit of a weird one, and maybe it's because it's where the two panels join together, I'm not sure. If you go inside, lift the rubbers, if we can. Yuck. Moving down, steps. They're all gone. I don't think I've seen one where there's not rotted the steps somewhere. This one is looking pretty solid, but clearly it's been replaced or patched over or something by somebody. They're all messy. All you can do is lift the carpet if there's any carpet there, or rubber, and you'll probably find rust. Again, it's not a major job. It can be fixed. It can be covered over, but you want to make sure it's not falling off. Obviously, I have seen vans where it's literally your foot would go through it, so it can get pretty bad there. From underneath, clearly that step is multiple steps or panels or patches. I'm not sure what's going on exactly, but yeah, it's all been mashed up and welded up. While you're on the front step, lift up your carpet, so your rubber, and have a look at the floor at the front at both sides. It's a common area, look, for rust, and this one's had a big old patch panel put in. Relatively accessible and fixable, but obviously you want to find it if it's there. Lifting the carpet the other side, it looks like this entire section has been replaced. Got a big old patch in the middle there. I'm not even sure what that is. And while we're here, we'll look at the door, the bottom of the door. Now this one is completely rotted out. It's probably the worst one I've seen actually on 25s. Generally they've been okay, or not too bad. Obviously it's not an MOT failure, that's why I don't tend to talk about it too much. But you may want to look into it. I'm guessing the price of doors on 25s is starting to climb these days because they're getting a bit more rare. There's less on the road. Yep, I wrote that because of this. Look at the state of that. Worst welding ever. The only bit that was worse was what was attaching the tow bar on. So along the front panel of the van, it's a pretty prone place. Now this is a replacement panel that somebody's put in, kind of. Now it ruts along the bottom here where the pool water pulls up along the top of the bumper edge, and this bottom section here is very prone to going. That was gone on the new van even, so I've replaced all that. It's very, very doable. It's just a bit awkward to get into because the angle it's all at, trying to get the angle grinders in and stuff. But again, you can replace that in a decent way, just a little bit fiddly. Higher up at the windscreen, you tend to find that around the corner of the windscreens they get a bit bubbly sometimes. I've never seen one actually rotted out, so I wouldn't consider it as kind of serious or structural or anything, but it just looks a mess when it starts bubbling there. And to fix it, really, you're going to have to take the windscreen out, get the rubber out and proper sort the corner. So more of an annoyance and something that looks ugly than it is something structural, I guess. But if it's starting to go there, it's probably only going to get worse. Roof channels, what a pain in the bum to fix, and this particular van is especially bad. It's got holes and splits and cracks the whole way along pretty much. So if it's going as bad as this one, you got a serious fight to make that good if you're going to buy it. So consider carefully. At the back of the van on the roof here, now mine is pretty solid. This van had a little central pop roof, whereas if you have a full-size pop top, the one that covers the entire roof, the big square ones, you need to check this area quite carefully. I've seen a couple where they've been rotted out here. I'm assuming it's because the roof retains water in between the seal, and as I say, it does rot out, so you need to kind of check that out for the full-size pop tops. While we're in this area, I thought I'd show you this. Now, I'm not saying this is a common fault, because it's the first time I've ever actually seen it. Look at that! I've never actually checked in this area really for rust before, because I didn't know it rutted out. Certainly not in that top corner, so I'm not sure exactly why. And like I say, I've never checked for it before, so maybe I've missed it in the past. But for the sake of a minute, have a poke around there just to make sure things are solid, because that's a pretty nasty hole. So it's worth checking underneath windows when they're not standard. I don't know why, I don't know if it's the way they're cut in, but I found leaky and rusty windows in a couple of vans where the windows weren't originally from the factory. But you can also get rust around factory windows too. But below here, more importantly, is the channel. So on one side you have the runner for the sliding door, and the other side is just like an empty channel, because obviously different countries use the door on different sides, so you have the twin sliders. And I found on a couple of vans that this section, and this one's actually been welded up by the looks of it, was all rotted out. So I've got to push, and if it kind of comes away from the rest of the wing, you know it's on its way there. Again, you can take this panel off and get access to fix it, and it's relatively hidden, so it's not too bad, I guess, but it's definitely a good area for rust to build up. The rear hatches on these vans are a real rust trap, and I've seen many vans rotted out here. This particular one's pretty bad, certainly the worst one I've ever owned. Obviously you can replace the rear hatch, get a new one, but here in the UK they're starting to get a bit more expensive and a bit harder to find, and to fix it yourself is quite a fiddly thing to do. So if you are looking at buying a van that's got a bad one, you may want to consider the cost of replacing it before you buy the van. The last thing to look for, and you've probably spotted it if you're looking at a van, is seam rash. So along all the seams and all the panel joins on the vans, it's very, very, very common to get seam rash, which is basically rust coming through between the gaps between the two panels. It's a real pain to kind of get rid of when it's bad. It's a pain to get rid of generally. All you can do is kind of clean it up, seam seal it from the outside before you do your body work, and make it look as good as possible on the whole, because moisture can still get in through the joint on the inside, so it's still likely in time to burst back through anyway. So in my experience, seam rash is one of the most annoying things to try and get rid of and make look nice once it's in there. So basically it's not end of the world, but it's an annoying thing to try and make look nice on a van. So you want to try and avoid one that's really, really bad to start. So hopefully you found these useful if you're looking at buying your own van. Like I say, these are just my personal experiences and the rust areas that I've found to be the worst over the years. If you think I've missed something, please let me know in the comments below. or let everyone know in the comments below. It's important that we all share information where we can. And yeah, best of luck with the van hunt. Take care. Bye bye.